So I was on Twitter the other night and I saw this tweet that started going viral on my damn timeline that said, is Kyle Pitts the biggest tight end bust of all time? Once again, I'm going to read this one more time. Biggest tight end bust of all time with the question mark. So this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do, people. Kyle Pitts had the greatest rookie season ever for a tight end. His rookie season in 2021, he had 68 receptions, 1,026 receiving yards. He was averaging 15.1 yards per reception. And although he only caught a touchdown, that's probably the most productive rookie season that we've ever seen out of a tight end. It normally takes a tight end 3 years to even have somewhat of the kind of production that Kyle Pitts had in his rookie season. And last year, yeah, he had a little bit of a letdown, but it wasn't mainly due to him. It was because, first of all, you have Marcus Mariota throwing him the damn football. Marcus Mariota doesn't have a good arm, and he isn't really known for being a quarterback that takes a lot of shots downfield. And not only that, but Kyle Pitts also was dealing with an injury that sidelined him late last season. How are we already considering Kyle Pitts to be a bust after one down year that really wasn't his fault? That makes absolutely no sense to me. That is absurd. You trying to label this man a bust after one down year due to injuries and poor quarterback play? Do you not know that Kyle Pitts is one of the most talented tight ends in the NFL? You can line this guy up in the slot, outside that receiver. He is one of the most physically imposing tight ends in the game. He can blow past you with his speed. He can moss defensive backs with his size and athleticism. And most linebackers can't guard this dude in coverage because how talented he is as a route runner. And we really finna come on here and try to disrespect Kyle Pitts by asking this question, biggest tight end bust of all time. You know what's the reason for this? The fantasy football community. This is why not too many people take the fantasy football community serious when it comes to football takes like this. A lot of people who play fantasy football view Kyle Pitts as a bust when it comes to a fantasy football perspective. But don't try to intertwine the worlds of fantasy football with real life football, because you're going to sound real ignorant and you're going to sound like you don't know what the hell you're talking about, like this clown that we see right here on our screen. We really having this question right now? Biggest tight end bust of all time? What? Kyle Pitts isn't even close to being a bust, and he's definitely not close to being the biggest tight end bust of all time. There's been plenty of worse tight ends that have come through the NFL. You trying to ask this question, trying to paint Kyle Pitts already out to be a bust when he's going into his third season? What Kyle Pitts did his rookie season, most tight ends don't even do their first 3 years. And I feel a little bit like Atlanta kind of is underutilizing Kyle Pitts. I would love to see him moved around way more on the offense. I would love to see him playing a little bit more receiver, because at Florida, he just wasn't a traditional tight end that you just keep at the tight end position. You can move him around. You can cause a lot of mismatches. That's why Kyle Pitts went so high in the 2021 NFL draft. You don't normally see a tight end getting drafted in the top 5 or top 10 all that often, unless they have something that's different about them. And what was different about Kyle Pitts was his athleticism at that position and his versatility to be able to play more than just tight end. We already trying to label Kyle Pitts a bust after one down season. This is why people don't respect the fantasy football community. You come on, you go on Twitter with your Twitter fingers, and you ask dumb questions like this. And don't go down into the comment section and say, JT, this is a fair question, because no, the hell it's not. It's a fair question to ask a guy who had the greatest rookie season ever for a tight end, and after one down year due to poor quarterback play and injuries, we try to label this man a bust, and he's not an injury-prone player. He doesn't miss a lot of games. This was an absurd question to even be thought of by whoever tweeted this. And I'm not going to mention his app because he doesn't deserve recognition for this. I should have blurred it out on the screen. We really are trying to call Kyle Pitts a bust, and there are really people who agree that Kyle Pitts is a bust. Have y'all watched the Atlanta Falcons? Just be honest. Be honest. If you've been watching the Atlanta Falcons, you would know that Matt Ryan, his final year in the ATL in the 404, the only player he had to throw the football to was Kyle Pitts. That's pretty much the whole entire offense. Kyle Pitts and Cordell Patterson. Matt Ryan pretty much was saying, F it. Kyle Pitts is down there somewhere. Kyle Pitts, man. This is why people don't respect the fantasy football community, because the person who tweeted this out is one of those fantasy football experts or analysts. If you're a fantasy football analyst, keep your fantasy football takes separated from the real life football takes, because when you don't, you sound foolish. And you get things like this, and there's really people on Twitter who agree with this, who think that Kyle Pitts is a bust. Like, I know not too many of you guys are watching the Atlanta Falcons for the last 2 years, and you got a very good reason not to, because they've been terrible. But please don't try to tie fantasy football into real life, because Kyle Pitts is one of the most physically gifted tight ends in the NFL. He may be the most athletic tight end in the game. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Travis Kelce or George Kittle or Darren Waller, but if we were to have these tight ends run a 40-yard dash and do all the drills that they do at the combine, Kyle Pitts would dominate every single one of them. Travis Kelce doesn't have the athleticism that Kyle Pitts has. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful to Travis Kelce. But if you are a real and true football fan, you would know the athleticism that Kyle Pitts has. This dude is a matchup nightmare. I think that this tweet was out of poor context. I really do. Biggest tight end bust of all time. Bro, this man is going into his third season. He's only played 2 years of football, and his best season, his rookie season up to this point, was better than the majority of tight ends going into their first 3 years in the league. Kyle Pitts is far from a bust. As a matter of fact, he looks like an absolute stud for the Atlanta Falcons, and he's one of the main reasons why I'm on the fence about the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know about how their defense is going to do. I'm not expecting too much out of their defense, but I do think that their offense has the potential to be pretty solid this year. You got him, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, who I was a huge fan of. I'm not high on Desmond Ridder, but they do have a pretty good offensive line. Like, if Desmond Ridder can be serviceable this year, and Kyle Pitts and everybody else can stay healthy on offense, the Atlanta Falcons could be a contender for the postseason. I'm not saying they're a lock for the playoffs, but I do think they can be a contender because they do have weapons. And people asking questions like this tells you everything you need to know about how much football they watch, at least how much they watch the Atlanta Falcons. Anybody who watches the Atlanta Falcons will tell you that Kyle Pitts has damn near been either the best or second best player on this offense for the past 2 seasons outside of Cordell Patterson. This is a really disrespectful question to ask, and this is somebody who's coming from the fantasy football community. This is why the fantasy football community, those analysts, they get clowned because their real life football takes are really dumb. The biggest tight end bust of all time, and what universe is a man who had the kind of rookie season that Kyle Pitts had as a tight end a bust? He wasn't even bad last year. He got held back to bad QB play. Oh, well, JT doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. So what? He gets yards. He keeps the drive alive. He moves the chains, doesn't he? You people just nitpick everything, man. Like, everybody got to have 10 touchdowns or more to be considered the best at their position. What Kyle Pitts has done so far in his career has been better than what the majority of tight ends do their first 3-4 years in the game. It takes the tight end normally 3 years of development to even be able to put up 70% of a year that Kyle Pitts had his rookie season. I'm really annoyed that this question kept popping up on my timeline. Kyle Pitts is not a damn bust. I can't believe I even have to address this right now. If you think Kyle Pitts is a bust, I will tell you this. Go back and watch the games that the Falcons played when he was healthy. He was arguably the best player on this offense for the last 2 years since he got drafted 4th overall coming out of Florida in the 2021 NFL draft.